focused on honor killings is that this movie is about them. But what you are saying here in my book, Against the Double Blackmail, I do exactly this. I even mention your glorious country here. Didn't you have one of the most terrifying examples? I don't know in detail the story, but some Inuit or whatever prostitute was killed with a knife, and her torso was displayed there and so on. I cannot imagine anything more aggressive. So again, not only would I put it into the wider Arab context of misogynism and so on, I would even have said that it's part of a global tendency. Do you think we Christians are maybe at some points better, but maybe at some points worse? We have our own horrors. Look at, for example, and here I also get in trouble in Europe, look at Catholic Church pedophilia in Europe. It's so massive that you cannot believe it. We are not talking about a crazy priest here, there. We are literally talking about thousands of cases. It's so expanded that everyone knows this, that it's not simply pedophiles are everywhere, so if you have priests, it's natural that they are also there. In some obscene way, it's part of the church identity. It's what I called its inherent inherent transgression. You know, because for me, a culture is defined not only by its explicit rules, but by obscene practices of violating these rules. Like my standard example, Ku Klux Klan in the 20s. It was Christianity, white men, values, and so on. And it's Saturday evening, let's go and lynch some black guys, let's rape whatever. And this is what always, so along these lines, we should not only link, I totally agree, violence against women with Islam, but we should go into all of cultures. Are we? Maybe we are better, but we should definitely, I'm not so sure, be critical about ourselves, all cultures. I go to the end and say something which in the world of today's ideological fashions, it's very unpopular. Namely, Buddhism. I have a great respect for Buddhism. But usually, Islamophobes claim, why do you always mention Islam? For example, Buddhists, they don't have terror, although they protest in Tibet and so on. Sorry guys, bad news, they do have terror. I know at least of 2 countries, 3, Thailand, Bhutan, and Sri Lanka, where there are organized Buddhist gangs killing Tamils. They were doing it in Sri Lanka, in Thailand, killing others, and so on and so on. So I think we should be, with regard to this, we should absolutely avoid this Western superiority moralism, however we call it. So again, what you said, yes, a priori, I must then sincerely, I'm not playing any polite games, I'm a vulgar guy, I'm not polite. I sincerely apologize and accept what you said. The only thing I can say is that I spoke about honor killings because the fucking movie speaks about them. That was my source there. But I totally agree with you, even at another level, that I was always suspicious of privileging one form of, whatever we call it, violence against women, crime, to obfuscate a more general violence, you know. Like, I totally agree with you when you say, okay, honor killings, but isn't it that the whole of society is penetrated, dispersed by violence against women? And my problem is the following one. I think that the populist anti-immigrant conservatives, which are now getting stronger and stronger in Europe, I had to laugh so much. How? When right-wingers in Europe protest immigrants, they say, but they don't respect women's rights and so on and so on. Ha ha, look who is talking. These same people in internal European politics are usually even more conservative than Muslims who are arriving. Like what is happening in Poland now. Demonstrations to even close all the loopholes for abortion. Poland already has strict anti-abortion laws. But it had 3 loopholes. If it was rape, if it endangers mother's life, and if the unborn child is a monster, a freak, whatever. Now they want to close even these loopholes and unconditionally prohibit abortion. Or look at all this neoconservative wave in Russia, although Eastern Europe, Poland and so on, Hungary, pretend to be afraid of hate Russia. But it's strange how close to it they are culturally. It's this same backlash, and it's there is now even what is gradually emerging is some kind of a general conspiracy theory. Maybe you've heard about it. It goes on like this. Communism failed in 1920s. There was no European revolution. And then communists met, Stalin, whoever, Comintern, and decided to do something. Their result was communism failed because communists underestimated the strength of Catholic identity, stable ethics, family life. So they decided in order for us to get a second chance to win, we must first destroy from within Christianity and family life. So it's ridiculous, but I love these conspiracy theories. The theory is then that communists directly organized the Constitution of Frankfurt School, Adorno Horkheimer, to do this job of cultural self-destruction of the West. And the ultimate monster here is gender theory. Gender theory is the ultimate tool, and in the same of destroying morally the West. And what I find it so wonderful, in a terrifying sense, is that now you would have said, but wait a minute, then they should be close to Muslim fundamentalists. No, they still remain Islamophobic because they have a totally paranoid view that Muslim fundamentalism is not an agent in itself. It is secretly organized by European communist mafia to ruin Europe. That it's not really a religious phenomenon, it's all an attempt to ruin Europe and so on and so on. Now, you may laugh about it, but you know, what makes me afraid is that you may laugh about it in the same way that it's always good to know this. Till like 2930, all Germany was mostly laughing at Hitler, no? Then they stopped laughing, no? So again, my sincere apologies, and again, I always insist on this. Let's not fetishize Muslims, because when people tell me, read me in the sense of, but we should throw Muslim fundamentalists out and so on, I said, no, it's much more complex, because, but what will we do with our own fundamentalists? No, I would much more like to throw them out, no? Because I think that our own fundamentalists, anti-immigrant now in Europe, they, not the refugees, are the true threat to Europe. Imagine Europe run by Le Pen in France and so on. If there is anything in Europe worth fighting for, they are the true threat to it. I'm afraid of them. What I'm especially afraid of is that they are now getting much more civilized. You are getting a paradoxical figure of politically correct anti-immigrants. You know, they say we are open for women's rights, gay rights. That's why we should limit refugees, because they threaten this. And it's disgusting, because in their, and you have the same confusion. It's crucial to read it. You know where? You remember when Ken Livingstone, the ex-Labour mayor of London, was accused of anti-Semitism, he said it a little bit too brutally, and it's not true in that sense, that Hitler was a Zionist. Okay, it's not the most tasteful statement you can imagine. But he was at some point not arrived, but what I want to say is this. what made me paranoid years ago is how at a certain point the American religious fundamentalist right, which by its nature should be anti-Semitic, became pro-Zionist. Not pro-Jewish, but pro-Zionist. That is to, and you have the same, you remember Breivik, that jerk who killed 80 people in Norway? It's very interesting to read his text. My friends from Norway translated me some parts. He's at the same time openly anti-Semitic. He openly says how Jews are a problem, Hitler did the work, we don't have that threat in Europe, but England and US have that threat. But at the same time, he's totally pro-Israel. So he said we should throw the Jews out of Europe, but support them there. And this is why it's for me very tragic. After some minor troubles in France, Netanyahu invited French Jews, you are no longer safe there, come to Israel. You know what was the reaction in French anti-Semitic right wing, not openly, but press? Wonderful, we also know this. Yes, out of Europe, Jews, you know. So it's this very weird, dangerous coalition which started already, and I don't blame the Jews here, it was horror, but it's very interesting to read what the Nazis were saying before deciding on Holocaust. For example, in 1938, the really bad guy, Reinhard Heydrich, who was shot in Prague, he said, I quote it almost literally, Jews are a great creative nation. We wish them all the best, just not here in Germany. And we should help them to go to Palestine and establish their state there, and we wish them all the luck there, and so on and so on. It's, so again, do not misunderstand me. I in no way blame the Jews. They were what I'm saying is just that there is always this hypocritical remainder in European support for Israel. Basically, we like the Jews to go to Israel, and here, although he is disgusting, but here, it's the only moment where I found a little bit sympathy for Ahmadinejad, where he said, okay, you Europeans did horrible things to Jews, but why don't you give them part of Bavaria or part of Germany? You know, it's like I steal money from you and I pay you by giving to you what is not mine. There is something so hypocritical about this, you know. Let's get rid of them. Which is why it doesn't surprise me what is happening now with Saudi Arabia and Israel. This silent de facto coalition between hardline Zionists and hardline Muslim fundamentalists.